It may be summer, but it's always chilling here. Today on Hello, and welcome to another episode of Press B to Cancel. Today, we are talking about, well, before I get into that, I am joined by two wonderful hosts, Sinistar and Chardmonk. Say hello, fellas.
Hello, fellas.
Hello. Only one of you passed the test. I'm not going to say which.
Yeah.
I'm sure I failed. It's all right.
It wasn't me, because I dad joked the shit out of that.
And today we're talking about games that you can just always sit down and chill to play. Like, doesn't require a ton of practice to get back into. It's something you can just sort of shut your brain off and enjoy, right? So, decision fatigue got you down? Play one of these. At least that's what we do.
Yep.
Who would like to start today?
I'll go first. Screw it.
Okay.
I'll go first. No, that's fine. It's been a week. It's been a month. It's been a goddamn month, guys. I'm in my new house. I've moved in. This is all original. I didn't steal anybody's ideas from anyone. Wall looks great. I'm pretty happy about it. So totally my idea. It's great. So when I come into my room that's totally designed by myself and no one else and was not stolen by anybody, I typically will sit down and we got two games, right? We're going to talk about two of them. We're just going to talk about the one of them.
I came with three, but I don't know that we're going to get there.
That's right.
Well. We all came with three, didn't we?
We just figured we'd cycle through, and if time's running tight, we'll cut the list.
We do one each and then cycle through again?
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so my first chill-ass game that I always seem to fall into lately is Time Wasters. Time Wasters is the game that's it is a clone of Vampire Survivors and whatever clone that Vampire Survivors was initially. But I sit down and when I literally can't think of anything to play and I just want to fucking just do nothing and just play mindless crap, I go with Time Wasters. Time Wasters is another one of those, horde games where things start piling up on the screen and then there's bosses that you fight. And you progress to the next wave and you get some cool upgrades and some cool abilities with that. And it's mindless. It's numbing. There's nothing to it until there have been times I've played through it and I've woken up at the end of the round going, oh, I beat this one on to the next. So it's so fluid and simple that it's easy to just shut down. And they keep adding more stuff because it's still early access, so there's always new updates coming out for the game, always a new character you can play as or a new challenge that comes out. Again, it is a bastardized version of Vampire Survivors, but it's in space, so that makes it cool. And you get lasers and shit, so it's a great game. It's fun to play. Sinistress and I fondly played it together when they were visiting in town. And it's just a real good, just mind number after, 11 hours of work. You don't want to think about anything. That would be my top pick out of the three that I have.
Yeah, I want to add that I love Vampire Survivors, and a quick shout out to Vampire Survivors. The couch co-op just dropped, and I haven't tried it yet. So that might be fantastic. But I want to shout out that, a couple differences that I think are key in Time Wasters, because I agree this is a fantastic pick. The first one is when you feel like you do want to aim, you have the option with the right stick to aim, where Vampire Survivors, you don't. And then the other difference is it feels like there's definitely more differential between the characters. I mean, there are definitely differentials between certain characters in Vampire Survivors, but
but these are a lot more extreme.
Yeah, every character has a different mechanic, and then what's cool is once you've earned those, you can pull them into other playthroughs. Anyway, those are my my button issues or button topics.
Well, good, because that answered my question before I could ask it.
It and it's pretty. It's not.
Yeah.
It's more cell shady. I mean, it's even cell shady is not really. It's more picturesque than it's like Vampire Survivors is a lot more retro looking, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, but this one also is very. It's pretty on the eyes, so it's not like you're like straining to watch like pixelated creatures coming at you. It's actually like really polished and really smoothed out. So I would highly recommend Time Wasters to anyone that likes to just who likes Vampire Survivors and just wants to sit down and just not do anything. I would highly recommend Time Wasters because it is a time wasting game. It's a great time wasting game. It's not just a great title, it's a great game.
Oh man, the visuals in this look kind of wild.
They're good. It's a great game.
What was your question that we answered off the
I was going to ask what really sets it apart from Vampire Survivors.
It's in space. The obviously the weapons that each character start with are different. To an extent, they're still very similar in that respect, but it's also, it's also like it looks polished, it looks a lot cleaner. It's less retro looking, but still fighting wave after wave after wave, and you get like notable bosses too. Like you get notable boss battles in between each wave too. That Vampire Survivors kind of gives you that. You're fighting a big baddie, you see him coming, and you're like, oh, okay, that would be the next wave. But this one's like, alert, something's coming after you, and then you're like in a little arena that's made up of like a black hole, and you have to stay within that area and fight it while you're in that area. But it's some of the stuff you just kind of tear through.
I compare it to like Vampire Survivors would be like NES style graphics, and Time Wasters would be like SNES graphics.
I could see that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously modern.
Like the bosses can get pretty big in Time Wasters.
Yeah, they're cool.
Oh,
that's what I'm
Some of them take those straight up, yeah.
I'm just going to say this. Fuck the snake. Fuck the snake.
Snake's a snooze fest now. I need more of a challenge now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
Fun. I'd play the heck out of that.
All right. I guess I'll go next.
Cool.
Mine is Mario's Picross for the Game Boy, and to a larger extent, other Picross entries as well. But I'll preface it by saying Mario's Picross specifically, since I got it in probably 1998, I think I've started from scratch. So like I play through it and do everything and then wipe the file and do it again. I think I've done that probably 3 or 4 times, maybe more. And it's a lot of puzzles, right?
Yep.
So
yeah, there's we talked about this a little bit before the episode, but I guess the term is nonogram or nonogram. I don't know how the pronunciation is, but when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go back and play more of those, because I loved the one that I had on the DS. I loved the one I had on the 3DS, which became a 3D version, which was really kind of crazy.
Yeah.
The colorized ones are awesome, where there's like different colored pieces and you have to like play that role. Yeah, and so I need to find a good one for my Steam Deck. Maybe.
Yeah,
emulate.
I'm terrible at games like this.
Emulate. I need to emulate it for my Steam Deck.
There you go.
Some of these things look like they remind me of like Minesweeper, and I'm just an idiot when it comes to like a lot of these.
Yeah, it's kind of somewhere. I guess you could say it's kind of related to Sudoku in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a good chance if you enjoy doing Sudoku, you'll enjoy doing nonograms as well.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to nonograms, a big thing about playing a game of it is the UI. The UI can totally make or break the experience,
for sure.
Which is weird because, the Mario's Picross for the Game Boy from 25, 30 years ago is still like really, really well done to me. Like it just works. Nothing is left to chance. You don't wonder what's going on. It's really easy to know what you're doing at all times. And that's maybe not something I can say for some of them I've played more recently on my Android phone. So
yeah. Maybe give a little bit of a description of what a Picross or a nonogram game is, just so that people know.
So for every row and every column, you're given a specific set of numbers. And those numbers represent that many blocks in a row before there's a break.
Right.
So it might be 1, it might be 10, it might be 15, depends on how big the things are. But you might see like 1, 2, 3, 7, 1 or something like that. And so there's that first one could be the top, it could be somewhere down or whatever, but you can sort of infer where they overlap from either side and figure out what will always be in a specific spot. And that's kind of your jumping off point for the puzzle. And then you work from there. So, I mean, sometimes you get a gimme where it's like, it's a 10 by 10 box and some of the rows or columns are straight up just 10 or 0. And there's none in this one, or this one's all filled up.
Right.
And then they get a little bit more interesting once they start throwing various colors in there, because if it's a different color, it could be right next to the other color, next to the other number. So there might not be a space between, which interesting. I do enjoy those, but I find they're not as shut off the brain capable.
Right.
Those are a little more be present in what you're doing.
I'm watching this game, and I don't know how anybody's brain shuts off. My brain is freaking on overdrive watching someone do this.
Which one are you looking at specifically?
10-G. Does that mean anything to you? It looks like
no.
A flower.
I mean, I like the game.
Yeah, I'm looking at Mario Super Picross for the Super Famicom.
Okay, so that's the one that's actually on Switch Online. If you have that, it's in the Super Nintendo collection.
Yeah,
I have not fired it up. I should, because I mean, it's not like you need the game to be in English to understand what's going on.
Well, then you add on the 3DS. They made a 3D version where it's no longer a 10 by 10 or 15 by 15 or whatever. It's now a cube.
Yeah.
And what's cool is you rotate and you get your numbers, like they kind of float around with the cube.
Yeah. So you got an X, Y, and Z instead of just X and Y, right? So those I really enjoyed. It's kind of interesting because it's like this weird sort of Super Nintendo scaled voxel creation.
Yep. I loved my 3DS with the 3D Picross. I loved it.
I'm pretty sure I have it back there on Chardmonk's shelf.
Yeah.
Get your bingo cards out.
For those listening to the podcast that are listening later, just come view the YouTube really quick. You'll see what we're talking about.
Wolf and I have something in common. This
Although one's colors rotate and the others don't, so
Yeah, and the other one at the right angle, you
buy
can
the
see
good
me.
stuff.
Yeah,
maybe. I mean,
my big fat head.
Fantastic. I love both of these picks. Both of these picks are perfect chill games. Perfect, like, sit down. I've got 5 minutes to 30 minutes, and I'm just going to play, right? I love it. So, anything else to say on that, or should I go?
No, just that they're still making Picross games. I've got 2 of them on the Switch, Picross S, and they're still just as good as the old ones. I have ripped through all of the first one, and I picked up 5 because that was the most recent one that had come out when I went and bought it. And still love it.
Well, I may be doing a little emulation on the old Steam Deck here shortly.
Sounds like it might be the way to go.
Yeah. All right. Well, my first pick, if we're good to move on, my first pick is Slay the Spire, which is
that's a good one.
Yeah. So for those that don't know about this game, now it's been around for years. When did it come out? Hang on. Let me look at my Mind Palace really quickly.
Yeah.
2019 it looks like. So for those that don't know, it's a roguelite version of essentially kind of Magic the Gathering, but simpler. Like it's a deck building game meets a roguelite. And for those that may not like Magic the Gathering, it's very much simpler. You start every single run with the same deck that your character always has. Now there's different characters to pick from, but you start out with the same deck that they always have, and then as you go, you earn cards. Now the unlocks that you can get by progressing are additional cards that you can earn. But it's not like Magic the Gathering where there's any sort of like, I've got to go spend money on X card, right? You literally have a randomness, an RNG to which cards you're going to pick up in your run. And basically what you do
an
is,
RNG to what shows up in the shops.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And an RNG to what your path is going to look like, right? So
yeah.
As you go, you have, fight after fight after fight. You have regular level characters. You have elite bosses. You have an end boss for every single level. And part of your progression is you may have to sacrifice upgrading a card to get some health back because you just get beat up on your way through this. And it literally, like a roguelite, it is run until you are done. Run until you can't anymore. But what's great about it, for those that haven't played it, is at least the version that I have on Steam, I can close it, and it basically saves at the end of the last fight. So I can walk away and just come back later. The learning curve is stupid simple because the cards are well defined and well described, but they're also not like Magic the Gathering cards where there's like 87 rules on a card and you have to figure out, but there are definitely, yeah.
If the lore's not on the card, is it worth playing?
No, you're right. Let's move on.
We should really change the title to Press B to lore, because that's literally all we complain about is the lack of lore or the confusing lore in a game.
Right.
I wish I could get into these card games like these. I bet if I gave Slay the Spire a chance, after your description, I might actually enjoy it. But every time I see anything that's like attack with a card, I'm like, I'm not Yagio. I'm not about that life,
It's much simpler. Like literally the card will be like do 6 damage. And so it's like pressing a button on a controller and swinging at somebody, right?
Right.
Or the card may get a little bit more complex and say, hit for this amount and earn a little bit of defense, or
right.
Apply poison or something, right? And by the way, my favorite build currently is a poison build. I absolutely love it.
For the silent?
Yes, for the second character, the silent. Yeah. It's great because there's a card that you basically get that once you play it, you apply 2 or 3 poison and it stacks to the enemies every single round. And after 3 or 4 rounds, it's just great. They're taking 15 points of damage just on a whack. Like you don't even have to do anything, right? So, but
this definitely does look like a good shut down and just kind of go through the motions kind of game.
Oh, dude, this is a super solid pick. I have this on Steam, I have it on my phone, and I have it on the Switch.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now that I have a Steam Deck, I should probably just install it on the Steam Deck and play it there and not bother with the Switch anymore, because the Steam Deck is still my furthest along file.
It plays fantastically on the Switch. Or on the Steam Deck, on the Steam Deck.
It does on the Switch too, and the only issue I had with the Android version is you can't read the cards unless you click on it to have it expand, and sometimes you'll accidentally play it when you're trying to do that. So, at least that's what it was when I last played it on the phone. That was at least 7-8 months ago. So maybe they fixed it finally. I know there was a lot of complaints in the reviews for that, but definitely a solid game.
I'll add this to the old wish list, and maybe one of these days
it's
scoop it up for mind-numbing
it looks complex, but honestly, after you spin it up for the first time for like 15-20 minutes, you really have the game. You actually understand it from front to back, really. Plus, it's really great. The interface is like if you have an effect, like you have a weakness or something like that, you can move your character or your cursor, or you can hover over it, and it will tell you exactly what it's doing. So the interface is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the interface has been great ever since I bought this game in early access. So before it had the third or fourth characters, it just had like the silent had just been introduced. So I fell in love with it then, and that was almost 6 years ago now. So game is still great, holds up really well. Mechanically, like Chard's concerns about it being a card game, I get, because learning a new card game can be super daunting. Right. As a card game goes, it's pretty simplistic. It feels more like a turn-based RPG.
Yeah.
Where your moves are just limited to a random draw of cards.
Yeah, basically, like, if you can migrate a turn-based RPG menu and, like, select from attacks or magic, you're doing it it's just the cards that pop up in the front of your screen, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just having
past that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just having awareness of how you build your deck. As you progress, you can opt to completely skip adding cards if you want, or pick new cards that you find. And then you get the occasion where you can actually remove cards from your deck. So
and there are good cases for that.
Yeah, there are. It lets you build your deck how you like. Sometimes there's certain cards that are just sort of, they're really game-winning cards, no matter what character you have. And those are the ones you always absolutely want, especially once you've upgraded them. Like now, every single move you have costs almost nothing, and you can just go ham on your turn.
The bomb.
So it's
three. So there's in 3 turns or whatever, it's going to do 40 damage. Like, yeah.
The metas in this game are absolutely amazing. It can get a little intense when you start picking up relics that allow you to play with other classes' cards as well. So now you're playing, like, each character has their own color. So like, what are they called? I just had it up on screen. I'm sorry. Okay. So you have the Ironclad, who's basically like a barbarian or warrior. You have the Silent, who's more like a rogue with poison. You have the Defect, which doesn't really follow an archetype. Instead, it's just a mechanical being. And he's got sort of auras of different types that you can equip.
They're fun.
You can expand how many he can equip. Yeah. And you can spend them during combat to cause adverse effects on your opponents. And then there's the Watcher, and I believe she's sort of like a sorceress.
Yeah, I like the Watcher a lot.
So the card colors are red, green, blue, and purple. You're generally limited to just that color and colorless on a run, unless you get a relic that opens up another one. And now you have access to another color, and sometimes there's a lot of synergy, and sometimes it's really hard to make that work. So it's kind of the upside is usually you can choose whether you or not that's a relic you want. Usually that relic is not just forced upon you. It's one that you have a choice of that or others. So, but on the whole, excellent, easy game to get into.
Yeah. And then you add on top of that potions. You have potion slots.
Oh, yeah, you do have potions.
Which I actually forget a lot and realize after I've been defeated and lost a run, I was like, oh, I had a potion that would have gotten that done. So,
you know what? There's a lot of games that I'm like, I don't want to use my potions because I might need them later. This is a game that I'm always like, nah, just use the potion. I'll probably get another one after.
I am the items pack rack of the fucking century, man. I always get yelled at. Be like, use your potions. Like, no, I might need it. You're on the final boss. I don't care. It may give me a good ending if I hold on to it. Use the damn potion. No, I'm holding on to it in case of emergency. You're dying. I don't care. I'm holding on to it.
You may get screwed if you play Slay the Spire that way, but little
tangentially, that's a problem I found I've not had in Baldur's Gate 3.
I'm
dying. Sure. Okay, potion.
Sure.
Potion. I got 9 of them on me. Potion.
I'm on fire.
Or on top of that, like, hey, I have a bonus action where I can throw something at an enemy. What potions do I have to throw at the enemy? Right? Like,
right.
No, it sounds complex, but I'm not kidding. Play for 20 minutes and you really understand 90% of the game, and then you can just go. And like I said, every time you start the game, like, I mean, if you come back into a set, you may have your deck that you've been building, but every time you start a game, you have the basic set for that character. It's what, like 10 cards or something? Something really small.
Start with 10 or 15 cards per for a starting deck.
And it's really simple, and you actually get, like, generally you get choices of which cards you're going to pick up. So
that you get a boon when you start a new game.
Oh, for sure.
They give you, like, sometimes it's like you can have a little extra money, or your first 3 attacks will instant kill whatever they attack, and sometimes you get lucky, or your first 3 battles you instant kill everything you attack or something like that. And so sometimes you can get to like an elite in that within that spend and just kill the elite in one shot, and now you're a powerhouse before you've even taken any damage. It's great.
And then, I mean, just one more comment on this is, it's funny. I picked up Inscription, which is another, like, apparently roguelite card game. And every time I look at going and starting Inscription, I'm like, I'll go play Slay the Spire. It's fine.
Now, to that end, I will mention Inscription looks like Slay the Spire. It's very different.
It plays very differently because you actually have a field of cards, right?
Not just that. I hesitate to say more because I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay.
But the game has a number of surprises. If you have it, I highly recommend going through it, dude.
Well, I do have it. And like I said, every time I look at it, I'm like, I'm just going to go play Slay the Spire. I'll spin it up.
It'll feel a lot like Slay the Spire at first, and then you'll finally hit a point where you're like, oh, it's that sort of game.
Yeah,
okay.
I had the same issue with Vampire Survivors when I first played it. I was like, this game's dumb.
Yeah.
And now we're all addicted to it.
Yep.
So.
Which is great because when you get from Vampire Survivors to Time Wasters, know, and so ready. You just keep playing. You're like, no, this is going to become epic. This is going to become epic.
I know what's going to happen. It's all right that I died 300 times the first fucking run.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's my first pick.
All
right.
Yeah.
All right. Chard, what's your second pick?
My second brain-numbing game that I like to play is Binding of Isaac. I love how twisted that freaking game is. Binding of Isaac, super fun. It's another good shut them off and keep running. It's a roguelike. You keep playing until it's over. There's still so much to find out in that game. I have not even discovered probably 10% of that stupid game. But I love the upgrades. I love the artwork when you get the upgrades and what it does to your character. Just like mutilates everything about him and stuff. I love the boss battles. I just like everything about it. And it's the same thing. I hated it when I fired it up because it's not your typical roguelike. I mean, I've never played a roguelike personally like this where the buttons don't do anything. It's the controls,
right?
Like where you're aiming the direction stick is where he's going to fire his tears.
Yeah.
And it took me that took a lot to get used to playing it. And then after I figured that out, then it started to just become second nature to me. And I love playing Binding of Isaac. That game kills me. I laugh every time I play that stupid game.
I love that game because it's so horrible. I was about to say, I love that game because it's so horrible. Like the entire really premise from the beginning is your mother has locked you in a closet or something.
No, whatever. You're hiding from her.
That's right.
She's hiding from you because she thinks you're possessed or something. She's trying to kill you.
She thinks Isaac is possessed, and so Isaac is hiding from her because she's trying to kill him.
And your weapon is your tears, and you are literally taking down piles of shit with your tears. I'm not kidding. Up. That's not a euphemism.
I love it. I think it's a great game. I think it's a spectacular roguelike and a lot of fun to play, and it is just twisted as fuck to play.
That's a game I love to play, and I've not put anywhere near the hours my brother has into that, and I've probably put a few hundred, and he's at least quadruple that. It's ridiculous. Oh, wow. He did Golden God in every new patch that came out for it for a while, and then they released the the most recent DLC. I don't remember what it was. I think it was a free DLC update or something. I don't know. But he actually finally had a struggle with that. And I don't think he got Platinum God on that. But he did almost everything, if not everything. It's ridiculous. And that's a game I've lost so many hours just enjoying and playing. And I've never done a speed run on it. Like, there are people who are like, I've got my run down to like 25 minutes or 20 minutes, and I'm just going straight for like the special bosses and hard modes and all that. And I'm like, I am not that good. I like to just get OP as hell and destroy the final boss over and over and over. That's my happy place with that game.
For me, it's the collectibles, right? Like, you go find like the really clever, stupid collectibles, and like the change to Isaac's appearance for every single one of them, right? I mean, yeah, it's you know, your tears become blood, or your tears become whatever, right? Yeah. Oh, very cool.
No, he got it. I was gonna go get it. But you already got it, Wolf. So you're good.
Hey, get your bingo cards out. I'm not pointing at my background.
That's a fun one for sure. The card game actually holds up pretty well, but it's best if you do have 4 players. But yeah, Binding of Isaac. This is a game that I fell in love with back when it first came out as the Flash version, and I did it. I lost a ton of hours to that, and then when he did Rebirth, oh man, I lost so many more hours.
I think I only have the original. I don't think I have Rebirth.
You don't have Rebirth?
Which one do I have? I think I have everything except for the newest one.
Rebirth was the one that came out and worked with a controller out of the box.
Okay, so
you played with a controller and you didn't have to use like some middleware to make it work with a controller.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Flash version you played.
Okay. Yeah, then I have Binding of Isaac Rebirth. I have Binding of Isaac Rebirth. I don't have whatever the other one
Repentance. Repentance is I think the newest one.
Well, those are all just expansions to Rebirth, right? So there's like Rebirth, Afterbirth Plus, and Repentance. But the original Binding of Isaac came out in 2011.
Yeah, it's not new.
I have been.
I remember talking about it for years, and then like it resurfaced when I got my Steam Deck out, and I was like, "Do I still have this? I do still have this. I'm loading this up." And again, it's another game. I just sit in bed on my Steam Deck and just run around and do a couple runs, and then get tired and go to sleep. So I'm also not very good at it. So, but it's a killer game.
Yeah, this is a game that I start off every time I pick it up again. After a while, I suck for a couple of rounds, and then all of a sudden I'm getting OP every run. Every run is like a 3-hour go, and I'm just like getting as overpowered as I possibly can. And I'm doing so much, and I've mentioned this before on the podcast. I think I've got so much going on that I'm causing massive slowdown every time I fire something. It's just so big and so many things that it's like one frame per second every time I attack things.
That's awesome.
Now, fun little bit of trivia about me. So Princess Lazy, who's a streamer, check her out sometime. She has played a lot of Isaac on her streams, and there's one boss. It's the big blob face. I can't remember the name of it, but
Bumbo.
We refer to it. My friends when I was a younger child, hated my stepmother, and her name was Pearl, and we used to say "See Pearl and Hurl." And for some reason, we started calling this boss Pearl, and we'd say "See Pearl and Hurl." So it's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, it's Monstro. That's
who it is.
Monstro. That's
because
right.
we started calling it Momstro, and then it became Pearl, and then See Pearl and Hurl.
But Bumbo is actually an offshoot of Isaac. That's sort of like a match 3 type of game almost. And I have that too. It's called The Legend of Bumbo. It's not nearly as good as Isaac, but it's still fun.
I've seen that one. Yeah, it's pretty clever.
Yeah, I mean, it's still very much in the vein of Isaac, so it's like shit jokes everywhere.
Hey, folks. This is Future Sinistar here. We had a little bit of a technical issue, so there's a little bit of a time jump. Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Part 2.
Yes.
Part 2.
Part 2.
All right. Well, okay. So, anything else to talk about with Binding of Isaac?
Other than it made your OBS shit? No, it's a great game.
Fantastic. All right. Who's next?
I am.
Okay.
So I've got Streets of Rogue.
Streets of Rogue.
This is one of those games that, oh my goodness, it's just so absurd. It's constantly craziness, especially if you're playing with more players, right? Like you pick your class. It's a roguelite. You pick your class and you run through a set of floors, and there's like each floor has a number of stages, 3 to 5, depending on whether you're doing a fast run or a normal run. And then there's 5 floors. So you're looking at 15 to 25 stages, right? Every so many stages, you're fed basically a huge hiccup on the stage. There could be bombs falling from the sky constantly. There could be cannibals jumping out of the sewers to try and eat you constantly. There could be just radiation spikes every 20 seconds or something. There's just crazy hazards all the time. It's great. But that's only every so many floors. Otherwise, the floors are pretty mellow, and you're given a goal depending on what your class is. So let's say you pick the courier class. So now your goal is you open your flip phone or whatever it is, get your mission, and you're basically an Amazon delivery man zooming around trying to get package from A to B, and then go back and collect your pay. And then you go to the next package and you deliver that, and then so forth. And so that's the goal with a courier. With a comedian, it's to go around and tell jokes to so many people. Not everybody is going to be open to your jokes. Sometimes they think it sucks and you get attacked, right?
Wow.
Nice.
So it's just constant madness in this game, and I absolutely love it. I love breaking into people's homes and robbing them, or if you're like a scientist, you can knock them out really easily. It's great. This is such a fun game. There's like 40 classes or so in this game. A lot of fun. Streets of Rogue. This is a game that whenever my buddy and I don't know what to play, because we have a weekly game night, whenever we don't know what to play, this is what we fall back on, maybe for a couple of weeks before we decide on something new. Huh. And it's never hard to get back into.
Didn't I watch you stream this?
You did.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And for anybody who's unfamiliar with this, but also for some reason familiar with the Down in McDonald's song, and particularly the music video from Electric Six, same energy, exact same energy.
That's awesome.
This does look pretty cool.
And it's up to 4 players. So if you're all different classes, you've all got different goals to accomplish, and you don't want to take forever. So you're all just running around causing mayhem and hoping not to screw each other.
Right.
That's
I feel
awesome.
like this game, I look at this game, it has a lot of similarities to Death Road to Canada a little bit in the look, mostly like
visually. Yeah.
Visually, but definitely not gameplay wise, but visually it's very similar to their style. I like games that you're just like a casual Joe just doing your shit and chaos is going on around you. Like the whole concept of being a comedian and trying to tell people jokes, and if they don't like it, then you have to fend for your life. It sounds pretty goddamn fun to me.
It's hilarious. Like as a fireman, your goal is to put out X amount of fires on every floor. And so I give it, like when you're a fireman, there's an NPC that's a firebug running around and starting fires. So you don't want to kill him until you've put out your fires, because otherwise you don't get to put out your fires.
Yep.
Or you might find out that, he pissed off another NPC because he started a fire on their building. So now he's dead because of that. So now you got to find a way to start your own fires. About, right? Like you have to be creative.
I saved you from the fire. Right?
Right.
You can be a cop, so then as a cop you have to arrest people. You can be oh my gosh, a hobo basically. So you have to go around and ask people for money and get money from them. So that's like the poor man's run. You're like constantly broke And the game asks a lot of money of you. That and like the major currency. So you've got gold, which is the main currency that you spend stuff on. But for upgrades and whatnot, you get chicken nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
Chicken nuggets are the really special currency.
Okay.
That's awesome.
But I mean, you get stuff from like banana peels to make people slip, and baseball bats and crowbars. And crowbars are both weapons and something you could pry open doors with. So like everything is a little bit multifaceted in that way. But you get stuff like that. But then you also get like rocket launchers and grenades and Uzis and shotguns, just a wide variety of weapons. It's absolutely wild. And I think for some characters, it's completely possible to go through a floor, or at least almost completely possible to go through a floor without getting into combat. Huh. You can talk to people or just like put them all under, like walk up behind a guy and, you know,
you
put
can
him
be
out.
a zombie. You can be a zombie.
Yes, you can be a zombie. As a zombie, the goal is to turn a bunch of people into zombies every floor.
Right. That's pretty good.
You can be a vampire. You can be a werewolf. You can be a
cannibal.
A mech pilot.
A mech pilot.
Yeah. And your mech can't go into buildings unless there's a big hole blown in the side of the building. So when you want to go into a building, you have to get out of your mech, and now you're a weak little dude, right?
Right.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
No, I loved watching.
On the list.
Yeah, I loved watching you play this on stream. This was great. Frenetic at times for sure. But I also remember you trying to sneak up and knock people out. It was great.
Yeah. It's a super fun game. There's definitely a learning curve involved. But you know, it's fun to play by yourself. It's a lot more fun to play with other people. I think I've played up to 3 players, and I know it goes up to 4. And
That's
3
awesome.
players was always just chaos already. Sometimes 2 players is chaos. You just hear somebody, like, you don't see what your friend is doing because they're off somewhere else on the map, and you just hear an explosion, and all of a sudden the floor's in lockdown. What did you do?
What did you do, Ray? Nice. That was I should play this game. I know I watched you stream it, and I know you've spoken about it multiple times for sure. So yeah, I think this is great. And hey, you know, thinking about it, I have my Wednesday game group and my Sunday church game group. When we say church, we call it video game church. Where sometimes we are like, what do we want to play? And we have our like our throwbacks to like Risk of Rain 2 or Deep Rock Galactic or, you know, Borderlands 2 or Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep. But I'd love to have just like a, you know, let's just play a stupid isometric, you know, retro like. So.
And this Streets of Rogue actually has a sequel in development.
Yep, I just saw that too.
Should have a lot of similar ideas at play, but it's instead of, you know, level based, it's just a big open world. So it'll probably feel a lot different and still a little bit the same. So don't expect from Streets of Rogue 2 what you get with Streets of Rogue when that comes out. Very different experiences. The dev has even said so. But I'm so looking forward to Streets of Rogue 2 just because I know I love the first one. And if it's more of that, I'm totally on board.
Yeah, for sure.
This should be a press B to cancel game that we play too.
Agreed.
Yeah, that would be fun.
We're accruing a bunch of games to play. Plus, isn't there the expansion to TMNT coming out?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. There is.
So
there definitely is.
Awesome. Right. Good pick, man.
Yeah, this looks great. This is definitely something I'll put on the wish list and pick up at one of these days. But this looks cool as hell.
Nice. Anything else on that one?
No, that's pretty much it. Like, it's just our fallback multiplayer game.
Okay. Well, nice. I'm gonna for my second pick. It's not the same caliber or the same style as Binding of Isaac, but another roguelite. Undermine, where Yeah, so you're a miner, and you're basically tasked by this wizard to find out why the underworld has tremors, and you basically, it's another one of those go until you can't anymore. I think there's an end game. I've never made it to the end game, but it's a blast because it's one of those. It's like a less. Your mother's trying to murder you and you're crying about it and you're crying out poo piles. Instead, you're tasked to go under the earth, but it's the same kind of concept where you have these pickups that give you, different abilities that are awesome. Like sometimes you'll have spikes that'll pop up and you can get metal boots that make it so you can go over the spikes, and each room that you go into, just like Isaac, it's procedurally generated. So each room, that you go into has different enemies and different, pickups and whatever. It's one of those where it like has, key starvation, just like Binding of Isaac. It has money starvation, just like Binding of Isaac, right? But and I don't remember if Isaac definitely has the unlockable characters. But yes. in Undermine, it's really you earn cash, and you can take a portion of the cash back with you after you die, and you can buy upgrades to your axe or to your your armor or to your whatever, and so each one you kind of progress a little bit further and a little bit further. But it's
for accuracy's sake, I would like to say it's your canary or whatever other pet you may have takes a portion of whatever you had in money back for the next miner.
Fair. Okay, fair. And your miner dies and it's permanent and you just get a new miner. I mean, it's it's great because you have a melee move and you have a distance throw. And with certain upgrades, you can pick up gold with your distance throw. And conveniently, whenever you break gold out of the map, there are these little itty-bitty things that I always want to murder the fuck out of that try to pick up the gold before you do, right? And they make the cutest little noises, especially when you kill them. Yeah, exactly. So... But it's clever because like some of like the creatures that you fight, like, okay, so you can pick up upgrades that make it so you can break larger stone blocks. Or if there's like I always call it the teddy bear. There's the teddy bear like that always rages across the screen at you. And conveniently, if you line him up, he can break those blocks even if you can't, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So it's one of those where it's got some cleverness there. Yeah, just it's mindless, but it also like you can really pay attention and try to get curses and artifacts that try to benefit each other, right? So, but I mean Isaac has that as well. So it feels like a less crying and poop field Isaac.
I can see that. Yeah, definitely see that.
Yeah. But and I've
watched.
go ahead.
I watched Sarconia's play this a couple times. I believe he's played this and something else. So he's kind of like our resident roguelike player from time to time. And this looks pretty interesting. This looks like another good one. These are all good picks, man.
Plays on the deck well. So I think every pick we've talked about, other than Picross / a nonogram, but obviously you can emulate great on the deck.
Yeah.
So, and I do know that there are nonogram games on Steam. I just haven't tried any directly on Steam. So, yeah. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, there was one my brother was into on the Switch called Picto Quest.
Okay.
And he was really digging on it, but it seems a little simplistic.
Honestly, I want to go pick up my 3DS and play 3D Picross again because I loved that. Anyway.
Fucking watching the one I saw for the Super Famicom, and I'm like, I feel dumb watching this. I feel like I can't do this.
Add a 3D element to it. Add a Z. Add an X, Y, and a Z.
Oh, yeah.
No. I'm good.
That was
I'm good. I'm all right.
It's definitely a lot when that happens.
Yeah. So
all
that's
right. Do we want to continue and do the third round?
We can. Mine is a very well known third round pick. So if you guys want to go, I can go with mine last.
I don't know if mine is.
All right.
I feel like
all
it
right,
is.
Chard, let's hear it.
Enter the Gungeon. Enter the Gungeon is
that's...
I wouldn't say it's a super chill, kind of forget things game, but it's third on my list.
A shut your brain off and kind of do things game,
and curse at the world, because this game is freaking hard. This game is so goddamn hard, but man, when you kick the rust off and you start playing again, dude, it's cool as fuck. I love playing Enter the Gungeon, especially when you get a good run and you start picking up some really killer guns. It's sick. I've never finished it. I've never been able to beat it. I'll get super far into it and then I'll stop playing and I lose all of the ability that I had, and then I have to kick the rust off again. And it's super difficult to like pick back up where you left off. The dive rolling in it, the iframes feel. I always talk about, I love games that make me feel like a badass.
Yeah.
And this game is one of those games that makes you feel like a badass when you finally get it down. Well, it is a lot of fun.
And it has so much cleverness to it. Like, I don't remember all the bosses, but I definitely know, like, one of them, the Amoconda, right? Like, instead of Anaconda, Amoconda. Like, it's got some cleverness. Plus, the enemies conveniently are shaped like bullets and, this, that, and the other, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I believe the concept is you're going into this tower to find a gun that will shoot like your past or kill like a bad portion of your past or something. So all these people are trying to get to it so that they can change their futures by eliminating their past. I don't know if that's true. It's been a long time since I've played it, but I'm pretty sure that's the premise. So you're going into the Gungeon where everything is some kind of ammunition. There's bombs, there's shotgun shells running around, there's bullets, like you said. There's all kinds of different things. Each enemy has some kind of weapon related name. There's even a beholder in here that has 300 different guns that it uses on you. Amoconda is one of the more difficult ones that I've played. There's the beefy crow that you fight in the first one, and then there's like the king bullet and shit. There's some really cool things in this game. There's a lot of secrets too. There's like, you have to gather certain things to unlock them and open up different levels and different layers of the world, and you have to buy pieces in the shopkeep and stuff. And if you shoot your gun in the shopkeep, it pisses him off and he'll attack you. And there's no forgiveness in this game. This game is extremely unforgiving, but man, it is fun when it really starts getting the ball rolling. I first played this on Xbox and I was playing it on controller, and I got really good with playing it on controller. Then I switched to mouse and keyboard and I got decent at it that way, but I can probably play it better on the Steam Deck controller than I can on like my mouse and keyboard. It's almost the freedom that you get from the mouse is too much. Like my brain's like, there's too much going on. You need to slow it down. So it's an intense game.
I'm the same way with Undermine. Like keyboard and mouse is fine on Undermine, but there's it like the ability to move and aim with the two separate sticks, right? And not lose where your pointer is on the screen. I think that's the biggest piece, is losing where your pointer is, right? Yep. So
I feel like that's even more of a problem for those of us who have multiple monitors.
Wee.
I mean, I love the guns in this game. I love, like, one of them I had was like the love gun, and it was a shotgun that shot teddy bears out. And like certain aspects of the gun would charm enemies and they would attack things for you. You get the pea shooter, which is essentially a pea pod that shoots peas out.
Yeah.
I mean, just the cleverness of the whole system of this game. This is probably the first roguelike I think I've ever actually like played and really, really got into. I love Gungeon, and if I could just get good at it, it's one of those. This is that roguelike that I really want to get good at, but I just don't have the time and energy right now to put into it to actually become as good as you can get at this game. But man, it is fun to watch like exceptionally talented people. Sarconius, another same guy that played Undermine. he played a lot of Gungeon too, and watching him play Gungeon, it was like, dude, this guy's so damn good, because it gets insane. Like the final boss fight it's bullet hell. It is absolute bullet hell, and it is amazing what some of these players can do with this. So
for sure, Enter
the Gungeon, great game. Check that out. It's not as chill as I'd like it to be, but it is definitely fun for like, I don't know what to do. Let's do a few rounds of Gungeon, just see what happens.
Yeah, fair. It's a great pick. I've played.
Yeah, that's one I'm afraid to play because I am terrible at bullet hell games. And I know Isaac is technically a bullet hell, but I don't think it's as bad as what I've seen Gungeon do.
Gungeon
is way worse.
Gungeon is an order of magnitude worse.
Yeah, I could beat Isaac. I cannot beat Gungeon. Not yet, anyways.
So I stay away from that one because of just how heavily bullet hell it is. I don't do those well.
But I'm gonna side with.
It looks fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna side with Chard a little bit. I own it. I suck at it. But honestly, like, it's one of those where I spin it up for a run or two and have a great time, and like never get terribly far, but I still have a great time. So yeah.
There's another game. It looks a lot like that I have. I can't remember what it's called. It's one where you're just like a bunch of irradiated monsters. Oh gosh,
that's my Tuesday night.
I was gonna say, Wolf's got all the good shit.
Yeah, he's
I don't
looking
remember
over your
what
shoulder.
It's called, sadly.
Yeah.
Oh well. It's somebody who's listening probably knows what I'm talking about is just screaming at us, but
yeah. Well, that's a good point.
All
Come comment on the video and tell us what tell us
where we're wrong.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good pick.
So my next Nuclear Throne, that is Vaughn knew it's Nuclear Throne.
Look at this guy. Winner, chicken dinner.
Thank you, Vaughn.
Excellent.
That was going to drive me nuts. All right. So my next pick is Ticket to Ride. And yeah, this is a 2-person play most of the time. I think maybe you can play the digital version against AI. I don't know how fun that is. I only ever play against the wife. But we love Ticket to Ride. It's just absolute blast for us. But when the wife first got it, our kid was like 3. And so it was kind of hard to have the time to set up, keep the trains up, keep playing, not have him wander over, go, what are you doing? Wipe all the little train cars off. Well, now we don't know what's happening. So the digital version is great because there's none of that setup, none of the cleanup.
Right.
And it's literally just every once in a while, just one of us looks at the other. Trains? That's our shorthand for it. Trains? Nice. Yeah, trains. And just kick out around in like 15, 20 minutes and have a blast. And
I've
one of us
always played the board game version of this game.
Honestly, the digital version is literally the board game.
Yeah.
Like there's no major changes or departures.
It looks like the same thing.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. The board game, I feel like the board game in general is sort of like the modern take on the Monopoly style of gameplay without being quite as infuriating.
Right. Yeah, and without being, 7 hours.
Right. A game probably like at most, if you're playing with 4 or 5 people at the same table, you might be looking at an hour.
Yeah.
But in the digital version, it gives everybody like X amount of time to finish before the game is forfeit for that player's turns. And then they're just out of the game. So we set it at 45 minutes. We always end around at like 30 to 35 minutes left on each of our clocks. So we're done in 20, 30 minutes tops with a round. It's great.
Nice.
And, sometimes they're so fast, we kick out like 3 or 4 in a row in the time that it would take to play just one on the tabletop. So Ticket to Ride. Yeah, that's a great idea, Vaughn. It's a great starter board game.
Agreed.
It's very accessible. It's a lot of fun. Once you all have your strategies and how you tend to approach what cards you're handed, you start to build like, okay, I don't like going to that area because there's not enough going to that area in general. So I'm not likely to get a good hand for that. And then ultimately you do piss each other off a little bit, like you took my route, you know, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's not a friendship ender. It's just a little bit of
Yeah, it's not Risk, where like literally you won't talk to each other for like 6 months.
Yeah, and it's not Monopoly. You're not going to be fuming for your last half the game while you just fly into obscurity for the rest of the match, right?
Yeah. Now I will say this, and maybe they've added a fix for this in the digital version, but Sinstress and I have a friend who is both red-green and the other colorblind. I don't remember, but basically completely colorblind. And when we were playing the game with him, he kept holding up his hand. What color is this one? What color is this one? And so, yeah. So,
I don't think yellow. There's a fix for that.
Okay.
There's not like glasses you can wear or something. For that?
Well, they're the symbols, but the problem is the symbols, the way that the colors were on the cards, he couldn't discern the symbols either.
Oh,
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the board is literally just little rectangles of color.
Yeah.
It doesn't say what color they are. You just see like, you know, this one might be black and orange. So you'll see rectangles in black and rectangles in orange. And you need the solid set for either of those to make the path work.
Right.
And so then a lot of them are just gray. Yeah. So, you know, if you're colorblind, it might not be that easily accessible, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a fix for that on the digital version. I guess I should look into that.
Yeah. Just an interesting take. It was one of those times where we were like, hey, we have an hour, let's play a board game. We spun up Ticket to Ride like on a physical version, and he literally was like, what's this card? What's this card? Like,
right. So, I don't know what I'm doing.
Basically flashing his hand to us every single time he played his turn.
I don't see a colorblind mode on this, unfortunately.
Well,
damn.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. It's still a fantastic game. Sinstress points out, I won't play Catan anymore. But I probably would play Ticket to Ride. Even if it was the board game, I'd probably spin it up. I have a mobile version of this, like an Android version of this. I don't think I have the Steam version, but you definitely can play the AI in the Android version that I have. So...
Ticket Ride's fun.
Yeah,
that's what we play on is our phones.
Mm-hmm.
Her Optic's family, his mom had a board game night a couple times a year during Christmas when we go visit back in Cali to visit the fam, and he and I were playing a bunch of board games together, and some of them were team up games, and we played our first team up game. And for those of you who know who Lord Optic and I are basically the same person essentially, and we just have to look at each other, and we're beating everybody. We've got complete control of the whole set.
Yeah.
So his mom got out Ticket to Ride, because I don't believe you can team up in this one. If I remember right, there's not really if you're like a team up.
Not if you're playing it right.
Yeah. Well, she forbade us to being on the same team ever again. She would not, unless she goes, you guys have to play against each other. So every time there's a board game, Optic and I would be like, all right. And she's like, no, you can't. No, you're on my team. Okay.
Nice.
It's so Ticket to the Ride was one of the ones that she was like, you can't play. You have to play against one another. Okay. Well, we'll do that. So, and we still beat everybody. So it's pretty funny. I have good memories of Ticket to Ride and playing this one. This is one I'd like to get for the wife and I, just to kind of fuck around and play with at home. Yeah. Even like you said, even if it's just the tabletop game, this is a fun one.
Yep. Good pick. Anything else on that?
No. I guess a little bit. Like the digital version has access to all the various expansions and other versions, but they're all like $3 to $5 a pop, except for a handful. So like if it's the basic map, they give you the alternate play modes for like big cities or classic 1910, all that stuff. But then like Pennsylvania board and its modes, extra few bucks a pop. Europe and its modes, extra few bucks a pop. Asia and its modes, whatever, you know. So Unfortunately, it feels a little cash grabby to me, but the base game, like if you just buy the base game, you get access to the base stuff. It's not too bad. I'm sure you can pick these up on sale on the storefronts now and then. I just haven't really looked into it.
Yeah.
I think we bought them on Steam forever ago, and honestly, we didn't even have to buy it again on Android. We just had to log in with our same user ID we created from purchasing it on Steam, and it transferred.
Nice. Yeah, I was about to say what Vaughn just said, which is, it's still cheaper than buying all of the options in the board game, right? Like
that's true.
Sinstress and I have like the Markland edition, which was like another $50 purchase, right? So
that's a great touching point for a future episode we'll do where we talk about board games done digitally. But for now, I think we can move on from Ticket to Ride. And Sinistar, you can give us your last pick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, mine is a well-known, but this is the newest version that I've played, which is Tetris Effect Connected. So Tetris has always been I have, 15, 20, 30 minutes to kill. I'm just going to go play Tetris. And, but Tetris Effect and the connected version has a multiplayer, which I've never actually played the multiplayer, but I've watched people play it. But it has an addition of, it still has the tetranominos, whatever they're called, the pieces. But each board may have those shapes with like gears instead of like the little squares, or, different things. And then it has a musical element where as you go, it kind of builds music on top, and it actually becomes really cool. Most of them become really cool boards with the music going on. So, the more lines you destroy, more Tetrises you get, it builds on top of the music and stuff like that. And then it does have a progression. Now, my problem is my hand-eye coordination has slowed as I'm an adult, and it seems like Tetris, like the ramp is like almost a hockey stick. I'm like, oh, these first couple levels are great. Oh, why did this become so stupid hard? So I tend to jump back a couple levels and just play again. So I've never completed the run, but I've definitely played a lot of the Tetris Effect game. Plays incredibly well on the Steam Deck. As I said, it has a really cool musical element. And it's Tetris. So what can you say? Other than they added a stop feature, which is kind of cool. So you can actually get like double Tetrises and triple Tetrises if you're fast enough with the stop element. So kind of cool. So
I do think Tetris is almost always a winner. And I think it was used in studies to show how playing Tetris can actually reduce how much trauma affects the brain after a major traumatic event, which, I mean, if that's the case, holy shit, I'd have been a mess after my stepdad passed away 25 years ago, had I not played Tetris for a week straight afterward, because I was still a mess.
Yeah.
But
I'll be frank with you. I'm watching this gameplay, and it's extremely colorful and very bright.
Yeah.
I'm stressing out watching it. So I'm having trauma watching the gameplay of this. This guy's stressing me out with the where he's dropping the blocks and stuff, man. It's
you can never watch other people play Tetris. You can't, because they don't play your style.
I'm doing it right now for this episode. Yeah. And I'm having a goddamn heart attack watching this guy. I'm like, no, what are you doing? Put it on the left.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
I think I tried some Tetris Effect at one point because I had access to my brother's PlayStation library for a while, and I couldn't get into it. My unusual Tetris that I always like to go back to is actually Tetris Plus for the PS1. You got this little, oh my good, not architect. What's the archaeologist? An archaeologist. This little archaeologist who's like 2 or 3 blocks tall, climbing around on your Tetris blocks, And as you stack them, he'll always try to climb to the top. There's also a spiked thing on chains slowly getting lowered. So you need to keep it lower and lower. He'll climb up to his death if you let him. And it's funny because
he learned it from watching
me.
He'll
shout out what you get. He'll be like single, double, triple, Tetris, you know.
Uh-huh.
And since you mostly just hear single over and over, he was so prone to just climbing up into the spikes and killing himself. My buddy and I started referring to him as single death prone moron.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, that's my favorite version of, or alternate version of Tetris aside from the basic, you know, NES Game Boy version.
Yeah. Well,
this is cool. Game Boy version will always be the Tetris that I recall.
My favorite version, honestly, is the N64, Tetris 64. And in particular, playing multiplayer with, you know, up to 4 players, because you know, it had the 4 connectors right off the bat, no multi-tap needed. And it had, you know, all the elements of the multiplayer. Like, if I'm looking for casual, I'm not going to go play with my friends because I don't want them throwing pieces at me. But when you're playing that multiplayer, I don't know, there was something about the N64 version that I absolutely adored. So I think it was the first version that I had that had the ability to store a piece. And that was a game-changing element. You know, we would always store the lines. Anytime you get a line, you'd store it. You know, hit that left bumper, that right bumper, whatever, store it. And then, you know, continue on until you had your Tetris ready. And then you'd pull back in your stored piece and just drop the Tetris. It was, yeah. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Tetris. And, yeah, we're getting some good call-outs here. Talisman. Oh, Terraria. I loved Terraria, Vaughn. I played the hell out of Terraria until I got bored with it. Just like Minecraft. Anyway.
I'm trying to think of any other, like, shut my brain off game. And we mentioned Dead Cells together. Of course, Vampire Survivors. That's obviously
Hades.
One to go through. Hades is another good one.
Yeah.
I mean, this might as well have been the roguelike episode because that's basically what we were talking about. But that's the games that we fucking sit down and relax and play. You know, that's just, it's easy to play something that is repetitive and you die, you get to start right back up and maybe a little stronger than you were last time and do a couple rounds of it. It's not like playing Final Fantasy 16 or Elden Ring or as of today, Armor Core 6, where it's like
Baldur's Gate 3.
You're good. Right. Or except Baldur's Gate. You're not like, there's no expectation. Like, I'm going to play this as far as I can get it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to pick up some stuff while I'm there, and then I'm going to die, and I'm going to try it all over again. You know, it's really like Vonson, you know, rinse and repeat. Just keep playing it until you're like, okay, I'm done playing this. You put it down. You don't feel like you feel accomplished, but even if you don't accomplish anything, you didn't feel like you lost anything either. You're like, all right, I'm going to go to bed now. I'm done playing Isaac, or I'm done playing Tetris or whatever. These are definitely very chillaxing, hanging out at home. I don't know what to play. Oh, this sounds fun. I'll do this for a couple hours or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and it is a rogue. I mean, that's the way of the roguelike, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't think it's any surprise that 2/3 of our list tonight was roguelites.
I know.
Yep.
So just a quick recap of our games. We had Time Wasters, Picross, Slay the Spire, Binding of Isaac, Streets of Rogue, Undermine, Enter the Gungeon, Ticket to Ride, and Tetris.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
I think it's a great list. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So if you guys are
if
looking,
you don't like one of them, there's a good chance you'll like at least one of those.
Yeah.
Whoever you are listening.
If anybody's listening going, I just want to play something that doesn't involve a lot of thought process, you got 9 to choose from. You know, dig through that and find one that you like. Except for Gungeon. That one's a bullet hell bitch. it's a fickle mistress.
Yep. Awesome.
Now I want to
All
play
right.
it.
So we've got some housekeeping to do. We have some top 100 entries to list. Now, because GP has been absent for a while, he's kind of fallen behind in how many entries he has versus the rest of us. So the three of us are giving GP entries tonight.
Yes, thank God.
So
I forgot to do mine. Oh, I remember which one it was too. Okay, if I had to do one, then we'd be good.
Well, I'll write it down somewhere so you don't forget.
No, I remember it. This one's
Okay.
this one's locked in. This one's locked in.
I need to look at, yeah.
Where's the list at? Where did he put it?
It's in the top 100. It's just not. It's at the bottom of the list. There's no episode linked to any of them yet.
Ooh,
one of them needs to be deleted because it's too new. Yeah. But the others, are good.
Yeah, I know which one I'm going to name.
So
I'm calling the bottom. I'm calling the bottom of the list.
Okay.
Where did he put the list? Is it on the sign-in sheet or is it on the?
It's on the episode details.
Yeah, episode ideas and details. The top 100.
Ah, there we go. Okay.
I call the very bottom one.
I want the second one.
The second one? Okay. Then I will go ahead and take the fourth one.
Okay.
Alrighty. I'll let you go first, Sinistar, since you picked first.
Yeah, okay. So I picked this one because you're all going to laugh. If you haven't listened to this episode on this game, go listen to it and you'll laugh why I picked this game. GP wants to add to the list Super Mario RPG.
This fucking guy.
And yeah, so GP's note here says, I know another Mario and another RPG, but fuck me, this game is amazing. Everything you love from both genres beautifully executed. Excited for the remaster. So
yeah, excited to hear the music over and over again.
Yeah,
in the 3 bars.
I'm not. About that. I've said my piece. I'm letting GP's piece roll. With
it is a hidden gem. Yes, this is another hidden gem. Another GP hidden gem.
Yeah.
Okay, I will
another GPHG.
Since we're not here to shit on these picks, I will list some positives about this game. For the time, it was an absolutely super accessible RPG. Oh, yeah. I mean, it did what it says on the tin, right? It was Super Mario RPG, and it was very accessible to young kids who may not be familiar with RPGs. It definitely took its time acquainting you with the mechanics. And I mean, also at the time, it looked good. At the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same with Donkey Kong Country. I don't think either of them has aged well, but for the time, it looked good.
It's the pre-rendered stuff, right? And for the time, the pre-rendered stuff looked amazing. It really did.
Yeah, like it was a huge deal back then.
I like clay animation looking stuff. It's kind of a cool looking thing. I get it.
Yeah.
And so the combat was it was actually a little bit innovative, and combat style maintained through the Mario and Luigi RPGs on the handhelds for years after that. So it set a tone for a lot of future games in it's funny because we call it Mario RPG and then the other ones are like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, Mario and Luigi Paper Jam, Partners in Time, all those, right? In Japan, they straight up call them Mario and Luigi RPG and then have the subtitle. So to me, these are what follows Mario RPG, not the Paper Mario games.
Yeah.
So it's I definitely set a tone for what came afterward. And in that regard, it did a lot.
Sure.
Yeah, a lot to remind people what not to do to make a good RPG.
It also had some fun moments that were very in tune with their core audience at the time. Like you had the Axum Rangers. Who the hell didn't like Power Rangers at the time, right? Like they hit the nail on the head repeatedly with it.
Except you miss all the platforms with isometric jumping.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. There's a lot of patience involved there. But as far as the actual content goes, they nailed it and set a lot of precedents for going forward. So I can see why GP would put it on the list. I think it's a fair nomination.
Yep. All right. Who's next?
All right, Chard. You go next.
All right. To no surprise, and this is actually my number 4 favorite in the series of games that we discuss normally. GP has selected Final Fantasy IV, which I think is his all-time favorite in the entire series. His quote was, "Remake is outstanding, but if we are purists, SNES." And I would agree with him on that. I have a lot of nostalgic boner for the SNES version. I know it's easier. I know it's broken. I know blah, 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 blah. I know. But the SNES had a fucking kicking soundtrack. It is probably my second favorite soundtrack growing up as a child, next to any of the Sonic games, because the Sonic games have banger soundtracks. I'm sorry. I don't give a shit what anybody says. But as it comes to RPG style music, this one stuck in my mind forever. I absolutely love the soundtrack to Final Fantasy IV. To this day, I find all kinds of different renditions and remakes of it, and each one better than the last. My favorite character, my moniker for my channel over on Twitch is Kane, my favorite Final Fantasy character. Yes, he's a fuckhead. Yes, he gets mind controlled easily, but you know what? He's a fucking cool looking character. He's designed really fucking cool. Even in a pixel art, he looks neat. I liked Kane a lot. It was my favorite RPG character like they ever created from that point on. The story is great. I love the story. It was like the first time that, you know, you would lose, like, characters died and they weren't in your party anymore, and you were like, well, WTF, what the fuck's going on with this? So that, like, had a first time that had ever happened really in an RPG. It hit hard, and it's pretty cool. And it was the M. Night, I call it the M. Night Shyamalan complex of you know, the bad guy turned out to not be the bad guy you thought the bad guy was going to be. So I thought that was a really cool spin back in the early 90s playing this game. So I wholeheartedly agree with GP on his selection for Final Fantasy IV. That thing needs to be on this list without question. It is the second gateway to all RPGs for me as a kid. If it weren't for the original Final Fantasy, this one would have definitely ushered me into that era very easily. So highly recommended.
Nice.
Yeah, FF4 was the RPG that got me into RPGs. It was the first true RPG I ever played. You know, I played Zelda as a little kid. Never really... I loved the game, but it didn't have that same scratch that Final Fantasy does and other RPGs tend to do. And like this, playing through this, it was just this whole new type of experience. I was just blown away. The amount of story, the character investment, the way the plot would twist and turn and throw surprises at you. And, you know, you're like, okay, we're making headway. And then the whole ship gets sunk right after the whole Fable thing. Like, there's so many things in this game that's just like, oh man. And it opens rough with your main character, Cecil, just feeling like a bag of trash after stealing the crystal from Mysidia. So
right. And I mean, even Palom and Porum sacrificing themselves to keep you alive.
Yeah.
And you can still walk by them and see them, like in later versions of the game. They're still like, oh fuck, these guys were in my party. They're not in my party anymore.
Yeah. So like you get character deaths and character losses that you don't often see in a lot of games. Like, I feel like it used to be more prevalent back then than it is now. And I think it was sort of breaking the expectation at the time. Now it kind of is an expectation that somebody major is going to die, but it's rarely a party member, right?
Right.
And so
but this kind of laid the path, right? You would say that this kind of like laid the bricks for the road work for that kind of like expectation. Now you play Final Fantasy and you're like, oh, this guy ain't going to make it very long. You know, it's just kind of almost expected for the most part.
Yeah. So I'm totally on board with Final Fantasy IV pick, GP. Good call.
Good call.
All right.
All right. And then I am going to list, he has listed here Batman for the NES. And his blurb is short, challenging, best soundtrack of NES, Fight Me. Solid IP adaptation. And I think that's all pretty solid points there. Like, yeah, the Batman NES soundtrack is pretty top notch.
So can I talk about that really quick? Because I watched Arcus, whatever, the guy that just is like the gaming god
gamer. Yeah.
And I watched him play through Batman, and the soundtrack is amazing, but anytime Arcus, whatever, plays a game, he hums the game. Yeah. And it's like in my head now, like the soundtrack is him humming the game in my head. It's awesome.
That's me and Ninja Gaiden now.
Okay. Yeah.
6-2. Yeah. Thanks, Arcus.
Yeah. So
yeah, this is actually a game I got as a kid, and I have never beaten it. I've never been that good at it, but it's always one of those games that I'll plug in and I'll fire it up for a while and play it until I get a game over, maybe 2 game overs, and then I'm like, all right, I've had my fill. But that was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. Great music. I don't know how this game works very well.
Same.
But I think it's a solid pick for sure. I think it's a solid
pick. The mechanics are solid. The controls are really tight. If you make a mistake in something you're doing, it's your fault. It's not the game's fault. The game punishes you for you being bad instead of punishing you because you exist, right? That's the case with a lot of NES games. You exist, therefore we punish you. Batman's like, nah, you fucked up. That's your fault.
So
you're done, bud. Sit out.
It's Elden Ring without the amazing lore written into the weapon descriptions.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a much more convoluted Elden Ring. I agree. I agree.
It's Elden Wing.
Yeah.
Elden Wing.
Yeah. The animation is fantastic too. I remember the animation is amazing.
It does. It looks pretty good for an NES game, and it falls back on the black backgrounds for everywhere, which is totally fitting for Batman because he's supposed to be out at night anyway. And that allows them to give a little more details to certain things, like it's shadowed, like black being all the solid background. That lets them get away with one more color instead of having to use black as like shadows and highlights during the day. It is all the shadows, and that gets them one more color in the palette. So it works.
Yep. That's great. Those are 3 solid picks.
Yes.
Dig it.
All right. That has been our chill games episode. Some of them are a little less chill than others, but still
chill for us.
Yeah. Thank you for listening, everybody. This has been another episode of Press B to Cancel. You can check us out at pressbtocancel.com. There are links to our Discord and social medias there. Come check us out. Come tell us what we missed, what we're wrong about, what we're right about. Just tell us about you, whatever. And we will see you next week. Have a good one, folks. Chill.